Okay, welcome back to another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about the upcoming Games Workshop release of Legions Imperialis. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm very excited. And I thought I would put some of them down here so you guys could listen to them. More of as for me, as a self-help guide, so I can kind of talk my way through this and verbalize my inner thoughts on this. But there are other videos on YouTube that obviously do this kind of stuff a lot better than me. I don't have the highest grasp on technology, but this is going to be kind of a ramble. But for the first time ever, I did write down my thoughts before I came to the table to record them. So I'm going to try and keep this down in time and also a little bit more focused. So there's a few things I want to go over. I want to go over the release in general itself, the announcement, and what my thoughts are on that. And then I want to go over what I think about, like, why did they choose a Horus Heresy for this game, and why not 40k as their setting, and what we can expect for the new releases. Like, I like to hypothesize, what are we going to get? What are we going to see for this game? So I want to go over that. And then lastly, how the release of this game will affect my current collection of epic scale miniatures. Now, the first thing, the game is set in the Horus Heresy. Why would Games Workshop release essentially what everyone's calling Epic, the new Epic 40k game, but in the Horus Heresy? And for that, I think we have to look back at, or look towards, I shouldn't say back, but we should look towards investment, Games Workshop's cost in making this game. They don't have to make this game. They're probably not even expecting this game to do spectacularly well. The way it seems to me, at least, these are all my opinions, by the way, but it seems to me like this game is being rushed out the factory floor before they get to the next big mainstay thing. So, I heard about this game in July, like all of us did, at the beginning of July, and they're saying it's coming out in August. Wow, a month and a half? Like, basically in a month and a half? That's pretty quick. We're getting tons of community articles on it already, although they're not very detailed, but they do have information. But I've never seen them throw out that much information in that short a time period. So I suspect, personal opinion, that they have a limited window. Someone in Games Workshop has years ago, maybe 5-10 years ago, was given the go-ahead to start this project. They've done all the work. Here we are. You, for all your hard work, are being given a limited window to market your product and get it to sell as many as you can before we move on. And that's like most companies. I work for a corporation myself, so I'm well aware of the thoughts behind it. And I understand them too. So the limited scope of the Horus Heresy is probably the main factor in this. We only really have to make Space Marines with the odd human. That means limited tooling costs. Like, we only have to produce so many plastic kits. We don't have to do Orcs and Eldar and Dark Eldar and Tau and all the derivatives of that, Sisters of Battle, and it just, 40k is huge. I mean, maybe because I'm 43 years old, I'm thinking that back when I first started playing it, there was really only, 10 factions. Well, if you look at the factions and sub-factions now, how many are there? 30, 40 sub-factions? That's too many kits. And also, even if they weren't going to make them into plastic tooling, that's too much for Forge World to sculpt and produce and store on a shelf and have their guy go around and pick the orders to deliver to gaming stores or to customer service. It's just too much. It's not realistic. So Horus Heresy, limited scope, limited tooling, limited cost. And then it also gives them the ability that if the game fails, if the game flops, they can just say it was a one-off. Sorry, we never expected it to go any further, so we made a self-contained starter set, kind of like Dreadfleet, not really Space Hulk, but you know what I'm saying. If it's a bomb, they can cut it off, hit the pause button, and just say, you know what, we're not going to continue on that. Whereas if they made it 40k and they released, let's say, Space Marines and who would they do? Space Marines probably, and Tyranids maybe, because that's the flavor of the month. If they did that, well then you have the Eldar players waiting for their faction, and you have the Orc players waiting for their faction, and on and on and on and on. So if they made it Space Marines and Tyranids, and it failed, and they hit the brakes, there'd be a lot of players like, what the hell, it could have been a success if you included my guys. So Horus Heresy fits that bill. It's limited. It's a galaxy-wide conflict, don't get me wrong, but it's limited in how many units they realistically have to make before they can say, job done. If we think about the box set that they're releasing for a second, my thoughts on the box set are, I can't wait, and I'm also disappointed. I can't wait because it's a new version of the game that I love, but I'm not really that enthusiastic with the contents of the box set. I don't need the Warhounds. I have Warhounds. The new plastic weapons are cool, but that's just to get you to be like, well, the Warhounds have new plastic weapons, so they're a whole new model. Yeah, it's fine. To me, I don't need the Warhounds, so I don't even include them in my brain, because I probably, even if I get the box set, I probably won't even paint them. I probably will assemble the plastic weapons and magnetize them for my current Warhounds, but the bodies are probably going to sit in the box forever, or be terrain, like scatter terrain, like a ruined Warhound. The Space Marines being in Mark 6, I'm kind of two thoughts on that. The first on, yeah, they're the new flavor of Mark for the Horus Heresy that was released last year in 28mm scale. But really, Mark 6, if you had released Mark 4, I would have been like, yes, that's Horus Heresy. If you had released Mark 3, I'd have been like, definitely, that's Horus Heresy for sure. Nothing says Horus Heresy to me like Mark 3 and probably 2 Space Marines. Mark 2, Mark 3. It's probably Mark 6 because maybe one day if they ever expect to go into 40k, maybe it makes more sense. But I would have preferred Mark 3 or Mark 4 even. But hey, it is what it is. The next thing is the Sakarans. They look really good. You can never go wrong with that. The Predators, they're Predators. There's not really a whole lot to say there. The Terminators look good. I'm hoping that they make the Tartarus-style Terminators. I like the 28mm Cataphractory Terminators, but for some reason, at the small scale, they kind of, maybe it's the paint job and the pictures that they've given, but they kind of look like Space Marines that have been hit with a mallet and kind of squished, their heads squished into their shoulders. There's something weird. I don't particularly like the poses, but there's only so much they can do with the scale, I guess. And then you got Assault Marines and Support Marines. They're the same as the Mark 6 Tacticals, essentially. But I'm not that enthused on them. The Space Marine stuff, meh. The Titan stuff, meh. Why I'm going to buy the box set, and I guarantee you it's why they're in the box set, is the Solar Auxilia. That's why it's there. They're in there to get you to be like, I want those. I can't wait to have little mini Imperial Guard guys. Or Imperial Army in this case. The Solar Auxilia, they look fantastic. They look like they're going to be easy to paint. There's the Lehman Russes in there, which I'm really excited for. The Malkador, which I didn't expect to see a Malkador in plastic. That's kind of like, I'm going to take a few of them. The Heavy Sentinels are kind of a meh, and the Ogrins are pretty cool. So really, out of that box set, I'm only really excited for the rules. The fact that I get to buy a box of Epic for the first time in my life. I've never bought an original box of Epic ever. I was really into this game when it was Epic Armageddon, and they didn't release a box set for that. It was just a rule book, and you got to buy the blister packs of the units separately. In 1997, when Epic 40k came out, I was 17 years old, and I didn't have any friggin' money. Plus, I was into girls, too, so I didn't do anything with that. I do have the box sets now, Epic 40k and Space Marine and Titanicus, but I bought them off eBay when I was 35, so it's not as if... So just the fact that it's out and on a shelf, I want to walk into a store, pick it up, and be 17 again and be like, yep, I'm buying this. But not for the models, for the experience of doing it. I also kind of want sadistically to make sure that I support this product as much as I can. So depending on the price point, I'm probably going to get 2 boxes. And I might just sell the Space Marine stuff and keep the Solar Auxilia stuff, because I kind of have enough Space Marines. And I'll go over near the end of the video how I intend to make my current collection work in the new game. But that's for later. I'm going to get this box set just for the experience and the Solar Auxilia part. Now, one thing that did strike me when I was looking at the box set, I'm always trying to figure out what size is this box going to be? Is it going to be the same as the Age of Darkness box set from last year? Is it going to be Leviathan size? With small figures, it can't be. I'm assuming that this box set is going to be the same size, or around the same size as the new Titanica starter set, or like the Pelennor Fields type of thing. Maybe a little thicker and not as wide or long, but it's going to be around that size. It's not going to be one of those honking huge boxes you can kill your neighbor with. It's probably going to be limited in the amount of stuff that they have in there. Like, I can't see them having 50 sprues of stuff. There's not enough miniatures to encompass 50 sprues. And I always think back to the sprues that came in the original Space Marine little boxes. You used to get these little boxes of Space Marine, like a company of Space Marines and stuff. And it wasn't just tactical Space Marines on the sprue. There was tacticals, there was the command figures, there was the odd Terminator here and there, there was a Dreadnought here and there. And I think that that's how they're going to go with this as well. So I was looking at the pictures online of whoever the professional photographer was that was taking the pictures. That was one guy. But there was also probably another guy that was setting them out in their little squads. And if you notice, they're all laid out, the infantry at least, are all laid out in 9 bases. It's always 9. The 2 Space Marine squads are both 2 squads of 9. The same with the Solar Auxilia, 2 squads of 9. And then you have the Ogrins in the back, and you have the Contemptors in the back, and they're kind of off to the side. And I thought to myself, well, there's no way they're going to make a Contemptor sprue with 4 Contemptors on it. They couldn't possibly afford the tooling to make a separate Contemptor sprue. So I bet you that those Contemptors are part of the infantry sprue or the Space Marine sprue. And the same would go for these new Heavy Sentinels. They're probably in the sprue with the infantry. So I'm assuming that what we're going to see is when we open this box and we take the sprue out, that it's going to be kind of like the old Space Marine days, where you probably don't, if you want to make a 10-man Terminator, or not 10-man, but a 10-base Terminator squad, you're going to have to buy several of these boxes. And I think that's how they're going to go. And to be honest, I'm one of those people that would probably do that. And there's just something about the way that there's 2 Assault Marines and 2 Terminators and 2 support bases and 2 heavy support bases and 2 command bases for the Space Marines. And the same is true for the Solar. We'll get to those guys next. But for the Space Marines, there seems to be 2 of everything, and then randomly, or not randomly, 8 bases of tacticals. So either that is going to be one big sprue encompassing everyone, or it's going to be 2 sprues, and one will be a close combat oriented sprue with 2 Cataphractii Terminators, 2 Assault Marines, and 4 tacticals, and the 9th guy is the command, and 2 shooting or fire support sprues, which will be 2 heavy support bases, 2 support bases, 4 tacticals, and the command. Either that is the way they've laid it out in the picture, either that's how the sprue is going to be laid out, or that's how the company or the detachment is going to be laid out. You're going to have your base of 1 command guy. So you have this command squad and 4 tacticals. That'll be your basic guy. And then you can add 2, you can upgrade their close combat capability by giving them 2 Terminators and 2 Assault, or you can upgrade their firepower by giving them 2 support, 2 heavy support. I'm assuming that's how it's going to go, and I'm excited to see if that's what the sprue is going to be laid out as. Oh, sorry, I just kicked the thing, sorry. And the same, I think, would go for the Solar Auxilia. I was looking at the Solar Auxilia as well, and from what I count is there's 2 of everything as well. There's 2 command. There's 2 of the shock trooper dudes, the guys with the axes. There's 2 flamer bases. There's 4 Ogrins and 10, what looks like 10 regular las rifle guys, or for the Solar Auxilia. And I would assume that probably that's going to be 2 sprues. In the box, we're going to get 2 sprues of them. And that would mean that it would be divided down into something like 1 command base on a sprue, along with 5 las guys, 1 shock guy, 2 flamer guys, and 2 Ogrins. And 2 heavy sentinels, maybe, on that 1 sprue. And the same would be for the Space Marines, I guess. You'd probably get the broken down in half on a sprue with 2 Contemptors. Because I don't see them making a Heavy Sentinel sprue and a Contemptor sprue. It's either going to be on the sprue with the infantry, which is why I say they're going to be there, or it's going to be attached to the Predators, or there'll be maybe 2 Predators and 2 Contemptors on a sprue. I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but I think you understand what I'm saying. For the Solar Auxilia, I fully expect the sprue will be a command, 5 Las, 1 Shock, 2 Flamer, 2 Ugrin, and 2 Sentinels. And then they're just going to have 2 of those sprues in the box, and you get everything in the box that's on the cover. And the same will be true for the Space Marines. Now, the Predators are a little different. I assume that they're not going to make a sprue of 10 Predators and give you 3 of them. The sprue probably will be 3 Predators on a sprue. That is a sprue. You get one of those sprues in the box. It makes 3 Predators with all the little different types of weapon options. And I think that'll be it. And that'll be a kit that they can sell later on as just Predators. The same is true for the Leman Russes. It's probably 4 Leman Russes on a plastic sprue with the different turrets that you need. And that'll be that. They can sell that again later on. You can upgrade your forces, add more of those. And then we get to the Sicarans. The Sicarans are probably exactly the same. If you think about it, how they're going to lay out the sprue in the box, it's going to be 1 sprue of Sicarans, contains 2 chassis for the actual Sicaran itself, and then the various turrets. What's next? The Malcadors. So you have the 2 Sicarans. You're probably going to be exactly the same with the Malcadors. You're going to get a sprue with 2 Malcadors. So I'm just rambling now, but I'm trying to think of how are they going to lay out the box of what the sprue is going to look like. And that kind of thing where they put everything on the one sprue helps me come to terms with the fact that this is a limited thing. They're probably, if this thing fails, just going to stop it at that. Because if for instance you open the box, and I hope I'm wrong, if I open the box and there's 1 whole sprue of just Las dudes for the Solar Auxilia, 1 whole sprue of a little sprue of the Predators by itself, a little sprue of the Terminators by themselves, then I'm going to be like, wow, they have a lot of stuff to store and put on their shelf in their warehouse. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. And I don't see the little Games Workshop stores that I know having that much shelf space for all these boxes. It can't be. It's just not feasible. What friendly local gaming store is going to make a niche game, and to accommodate all these releases is going to have the square footage on the shelf to stock all this? And it's not possible. So I'm just going to throw that idea in the bin. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is there's going to be 5 boxes on the shelf. One is a tactical company of Space Marines, and you get everything in it, including the Dreadnoughts on the same sprue. And one's going to be, for instance, you're going to get the Land Raiders will probably come together with the Spartans, or, well, let's just go over that for a second, actually. If you're thinking of how are they going to, like, what can we expect in the future from this, my thoughts would have to be you're going to see the super heavy companies, a box with just the super heavies in it. And you'll probably get a falchion. It might be separate, but I doubt they'll have the tooling to do a falchion separate. So it might come with a fellblade and a glaive option. So you might have the falchion and then 2 heavy tanks, so maybe 3 in a sprue, and you'll get the falchion, the fellblade, and the glaive weapon options. You get a bane blade with maybe a shadow sword with options for a storm blade kit. You'll get the Land Raider kit maybe on its own, maybe attached to rhinos like it was in the old days. You'll get the Land Raider with maybe its variants. You'll get the Rhino might be on its own kit with the variants to make whirlwinds, and the Command Rhino, that kind of stuff. The Spartan will probably come in its own kit with the options to make it into a Cerberus or a Typhon. That makes the most sense to me. You'll get the jet bikes with maybe a couple of land speeders attached to them, with maybe some options for the missile launchers or the las cannons. That seems to make a lot of sense to me. And for the Solar Auxilia, you'll probably get an artillery sprue. You'll probably get a heavy weapon sprue with missile launchers, las cannons, thud guns, those types of guys. They might also get a transport attached to that sprue, like a draconian, or what do you call it, a Dracosian armored transport. So that's probably what I'm expecting to come out in the next year or so. And if you think about it, that's only really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kits, really, plus the kits that will come in this box. So if I'm thinking I'm a company, I'm thinking that's probably manageable. If this game is not a failure, we can push out these 9 kits, cover basically all the generic options that you could want. Sure, they're Mark 6 Marines, but whatever. They're small. And then all we'd have to worry about then is Forge World's backing of support of this game by giving us resin options. Like, so for instance, I fully expect the Primarchs to be resin when they do eventually show up, because they said they will have teeny weeny Primarchs. I'm assuming they're not going to tool them in plastic. They're probably going to do them in resin. The detail, I think, in resin at least would be a lot better. So either the Primarchs, and I don't expect the Primarchs to come out in their own, here's Sanguinius, here's Horus. No, I fully expect Sanguinius and Horus to be packaged in with their specialty unit. That way, Games Workshop or Forge World, whoever's going to take control of the non-generic stuff, they're going to be able to cross off all 20 or all 18 legions Primarchs, but also a specialty unit. So you might see Sanguinius come with the what are they called? The Angel's Tears or the Crimson Paladins or the Sanguinary Guard, as that's the specialty unit. You'll get maybe a Fulgrim, he'll come with the Palatine Blades or the Phoenix Terminators, or maybe both, just to give his formation on the tabletop. Like, wow, I have an Emperor's Children army, but I also have Fulgrim, and he comes with his little bodyguard of Phoenix Guard Terminators. And the same would be true for Horus with the Justarian, or the, what does Horus else have? He has Justarian and the Reavers. I'm not even sure what their special unit is. But you know what I'm getting at. I don't think they're going to release here's a teeny weeny 8mm Primarch, he costs $60. No, they're going to charge you $60 anyway, but they're going to give you a unit to go along with that. And then that way, in one fell swoop, they have Sanguinius and his specialty unit and the Blood Angels. Now you can create a Blood Angel army. That's what I fully expect. Again, these are only my opinions. You tell me what you think. As you can tell, I'm excited by this. I love going down these rabbit holes to see, like, I want to know now what's coming, but I'm also excited not knowing. But the game has to be a success first, and that's why I'm thinking I'm going to probably get 2 of these kits, even though I have thousands of these models. Like, what I have here in front of you is really nothing. This is just to whet your appetite, or whet my appetite for what's coming. If I think even further down the line, like what can we expect from, if this game does well, if this game blows them out of the water, they're like, oh my god, we did not expect people to take this game so well. What I fully expect, and what I hope, is that we'll get a sort of a DLC, so to speak, being basically a plastic sprue, hopefully, of Imperial Army that can also kind of be Imperial Cult or a Chaos Cultish or a Militia, and that would be great because you could use you don't have the what are they called, the Solar Exilia, which kind of look all militarized and have like armor on and helmets. You just have regular army dudes, and they can still use the Leman Russes from before. They can still use the Malcadors from before, the Baneblades from before, whatever. That would be really cool. Maybe throw in on that sprue, like they did back in the old days, the Imperial Guard, and then you have the cavalry as well. There's Artillan Rough Riders on that sprue. That would be really cool. And for the extra cost of tooling one thing, you can then make a totally different type of Imperial army. I'm also looking forward to, maybe if this does well, that we'll get Imperial Palace terrain, so you can fight out the Siege of Terra, or maybe not even that, maybe just a generic earthworks or defense line. That would be pretty cool. Then you can only think of what else is left. You have the Imperial Army, you have Militia. Well, I'd love to see Mechanicum, but I think we're 2 years away from Mechanicum. I think before they even start tooling anything Mechanicum, I think they'll want to see if this box set sells. And if not, if they've already made it, wow, what an investment. You guys are rock stars. Maybe all the bad things I think about GW over the years, maybe that'll all go away. But I don't think so. I think the Mechanicum will come in 2 years. And then maybe we'll get demons, so you can make a Ruin Storm army. So how are they going to do this? Are they going to make demon Primarchs as well as regular Primarchs? Confused, but we'll find out. And then maybe everyone's favorite golden boys. Are we going to get resin? Probably. I doubt they'll do plastic, but resin versions of Custodes and the Sisters of Silence. That's interesting. But I think what we're definitely not going to see is anything other than the Primarchs as characters. They might do the ones that everyone knows, like the first captains that everyone knows, like Abaddon, Typhon, Sigismund. But they're definitely not going to make an Eidolon or Gabriel Santar, even though I would love them to. They're not going to make them. This game would have to be a colossal success for them to even think, hey, I'm going to sculpt an 8 mil Eidolon. We're definitely probably not going to, that doesn't make sense. We're definitely not going to get an Emperor model. I don't see, maybe a diorama piece with him sitting on the golden throne, but no. So hopefully it does well and we get the Mechanicum and stuff. For Titanicus, because I do have lots of Titanicus models, I'm really, really hoping that this spurs them on to finally make possessed Titan upgrade sprues. Even resin bits, just to make one of my Titans look like he's a demon. There's in so many of the books that it's just a shame that we don't have one already. But possessed Titan upgrades kit would be great. Would we ever maybe get an Imperator Titan? That'd be great. And will the Forge World Knights that are resin go to plastic? I mean, I want more Knights. I have a couple of them right here, but I want the Armiger Knights, but I don't want to pay 68, 70 bucks Canadian for 3 Armiger Knights that are this big. Like, make them in plastic, put 10 in a box, 9 in a box, and I would buy that. I'll pay 60, 70 bucks for that, but not for 3 resin guys. But I really hope that this game is going to be a success. I keep thinking to myself, I don't lay awake at night thinking, but I keep thinking to myself, I wish there was Eldar. I wish there was Orcs coming for this game. And I don't think that's realistic. I really do not think that's in the scope that whoever they gave permission to, whoever came to the table with this idea, whoever they gave that permission to go ahead, the promise was probably like, hey, don't touch 40K. We do not want people diverting their eyes away from our cash cow. Now, if you think about it, like, my son is 10, and I just last Sunday drove him down to the local gaming store so he could buy an Imperial Knight for 170 Canadian dollars plus tax. We drove home. We just finished assembling it today. He's now playing his computer. He's not even playing with the model. He just wanted it that badly, and it was his birthday. Fine. Grandparents have given you some money. I'll chuck in some money. Let's go get it. Now, if I wasn't a gamer myself, I was just a grandmother or a mother, and according to the podcast I watched from Peachy the other day, their biggest buyer, apparently Games Workshop's biggest customer, is mothers and grandmothers buying their kids, teenagers or young kids, Christmas and birthday gifts. Now, if I'm thinking Games Workshop, like that's my main customer, why would I, as Games Workshop, have that lady go into a store to buy something for their son or daughter or whoever, and you see this Spartan on the shelf in 28 mil scale? Well, I probably should use something 40K, but let's say you go in and you see a tank, any tank, for 40K, and it's $90 Canadian. Now, I'm Canadian, so that's why I'm saying Canadian, but you can convert that into 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 80 bucks, 75 bucks US, whatever. You go in and you see that and you're thinking like, oh my God, that's a lot of money, but that's what he wants. So, okay, let's buy him that. And then you look on another shelf and you see the exact same model, but there's 4 or 5 in the box and it's the same price or even a little lower. Well, as a parent not knowing, I would say, well, I would rather you have son. Why don't you play the smaller version of the game? It's a lot cheaper, hopefully. It's a lot cheaper and you get a lot more stuff. Now, I'm thinking 40K here. Well, I want to collect Eldar, and look, they have this starter set of Eldar with 200 models in it for 150 bucks, or I can buy one tank for 100 bucks. No, I'm going to direct my attention and my gaze and my money towards the smaller scale. So they don't want that. I'm assuming that's like death to them. So that's probably why they're not allowing it to be 40K, at least at the moment. I don't think they'll ever go 40K. But you're a hobbyist, hopefully, like me. I 3D printed all these things, apart from the Knights and the Titans and the two flyers there. I 3D printed all this stuff. I didn't need Games Workshop to stock or make it. There is nothing stopping me, and I have already created an Eldar army to fight my Horus Heresy figures, and there's nothing stopping me from creating my own little rules for the game to incorporate them in there. You can do all these things on your own. So don't be discouraged by, oh my god, it's not 40k, I'm not going to get my Tau. Go online, do a couple of searches. I'm sure by even now, there's a ton of Tau stuff out there. There's Vanguard miniatures that make Tau look-alike things. Well, they're not the same, but you can stand in proxy as Tau. You can enjoy, I'm assuming, give this game a year, and we can enjoy all the races in 40k with our 30k models. And maybe Tau is the wrong example, but you can definitely fight with Orcs, definitely fight with Eldar. Dark Eldar are still there. I mean, you can make this anything you want. Now, officially going to tournaments, it's going to have to be Horus Heresy stuff. But in my life, I've played hundreds of games, and I've been to 2 tournaments. I'm 43 years old. I've been to 2 tournaments. I don't give a shit what happens at tournaments and what they expect, because I'm not going to go there. I don't have time, and even if I did have time, I would just take out the resin bits that I printed off and go with the rest. So I'm not letting the fact that it's not a 40k setting bother me. I'm excited about 30k. I'm excited that they're investing in this and that I have something to look forward to. I did not buy the Leviathan box set, not because I didn't want it. I have that collector's bug. The completionist in me wants that, but I decided I don't actually really like 40k, the game, and I like the lore part of it, but there's too much to learn. The Horus Heresy to me is a lot easier to get my brain around. It's a civil war, humanity against humanity with the odd alien thrown in. I'm okay with it being the Horus Heresy. And once I start throwing dice, I'm not going to really care what it is. And if I really want the orcs, well, goddammit, I'm going to make the orcs. And that's how I'm thinking about it. So don't let that fact bother you either. Now, the video's gone on pretty long, so I'm sorry about that. But what I want to just go over the next few minutes is how is this game going to affect my my current collection? Well, the biggest part about my current collection is I have my Space Marines on 40mm bases. Hopefully that'll zoom in properly for you. I have them on 40mm bases simply because I like the look of 40mm and I like the feel of touching it. Sorry about that bad edit there. My phone rang. But I like the idea of 40mm bases, and next to... they're easier to move around the table, I find. And I was going to do the Solar Auxilia when I was going to print them off before I knew there was going to be official models. They were going to be on 25mm bases so that the Space Marines kind of looked bigger and took up more space. A squad of Space Marines is going to take up more room than a squad of Imperial Guard. So that doesn't bother me at all. Plus, like I said, I don't play the tournaments, so... maybe it won't fit the best on the terrain that they make, but I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm not going to rebase anything. I'm just really excited to have a game that's coming out that I have basically everything painted, that I can start playing games right away. The next thing about this is I'm already playing my collection with the Apocalypse, Warhammer 40,000 Apocalypse rule set. And from everything that I've read, that's been described to me about Legions Imperialis is that it does seem to me to be very similar to Apocalypse. One of the main things was the order tokens. You put your order tokens down, you have formations. That makes sense. Apocalypse has formations. You have order tokens that you put down in secret that do different things, and you flip them and you activate your detachment or whatever it is. Apocalypse does that. You also have wound tokens. You have blast markers. Now, the way it's probably going to be different is how the stats sheet's going to be worked out. Are you going to be using D10 or D12 and D6s like Apocalypse? I don't know. But I honestly think that this game is going to be closer to Apocalypse than it would have been to Epic 40K, with maybe some Armageddon sprinkled in. I don't know, but for me, I'm not changing anything with my guys. I'm going to leave them as is. I did base my tanks, but that was just because I really like how they looked based. I don't know why. But I'm excited, and I hope you're excited too. Sorry about the bad edits. Sorry about the rant. But I've never felt a need to make a video quite like this one. And long live Legions Imperialis. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.